Next hour, I'm going to break down the total takeover of our economy by offshore banks through the next part of Obama's agenda, the banker reorganization bill, the financial reform bill. Notice how I told you they'd phrase it. Oh, look, we fixed the economy. It's a jobless recovery, record job losses, home prices plunging, factories shutting down, but big banks are showing record profits off all the money they've stolen. So our economy's better. And if you don't give us this new takeover power, the whole economy is going to die. It's very elementary. And so now in the fall, it'll be part 2 of what we saw last October. You don't give them the total banking takeover power, they're going to come in and drop the stock market by 2,000 points. And then they're just going to keep doing it until we wake up homeless on the continent our forefathers conquered, in the words of Thomas Jefferson. Going back to Kevin in Mass. Kevin, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Alex. Thank you very much for taking my call. That last caller was a bit over the top. I mean, the guy doesn't understand the difference between rhetoric and reality. But 2 things I did want to mention to you. Number one, I was listening to you yesterday, and prior to listening to you, I downloaded 2 articles on the Tea Party stuff going on in D.C. One was the Wall Street Journal, which said tens of thousands of people. The next one I downloaded was the British paper, the Daily Mail, and bang, they said 2 million. If you want to see an illustration of press distortion, there it is.
Well, let's be clear. The Wall Street Journal, and I did see that, went with the same party line. New York Times said thousands, and that part of them were Obama supporters, total distortion, as if it was 2 groups out there, when it clearly wasn't. I mean, maybe 1 out of 100, 1 out of 20, who knows, but it was a very small minority for government-run health care. And look at that distortion. When the Park Service and Homeland Security said upwards of 2 million, our own media just can't get it right. So see, even the Wall Street Journal is trying to dampen the grassroots movement because the big banks, the big money, they all have piled on for Obama's health care plan. They just tell the liberals that big insurance companies are against it to fool them. Kind of like in 1913, the Federal Reserve, the private banks that owned it, took out full-page ads in every major paper saying, we don't want the Federal Reserve Act, to trick the grassroots. I mean, there's nothing these guys won't do.
I agree with you 100%. And point 2 here, Alex, I listened to an interview the other day, and it looks like it's disappeared into the rat hole. And that was, I listened to Jim Trafficant the other night with Greta Van Susteren, and he basically took a shot at AIPAC, so I think we're never going to probably hear from him again. But I was kind of surprised. Did you see that interview, and what did you think of it, if you did?
I have been really busy launching the whole 9/11 Charlie Sheen thing. I have been really busy with everything else. I finally, last night, after the show, at like 9 o'clock at night, one of the guys said, have you seen this? And I walked over and watched it, and that was on my list. In fact, will you pull that? It was like 2 parts, wasn't it? Pull that up, because I want to play parts of that later. The James Trafficant. Will knows. Will's the one that showed it to me. So who's? Ask him. He's in the other, yeah. Yes, sir. I did see that last night. Go ahead.
Okay, well, excellent, Alex. I thought he brought us some good points, and like I said, I noticed, like I've been all over the place, and I've seen virtually no mention of it whatsoever since he gave it, and like, I'll finish up with this thought. I believe the mainstream media, the corporate media, whatever you want to call them, Fox I call the controlled opposition, basically they do a disappearing thing. I remember like Pat Buchanan largely has run afoul of certain interest groups, and we don't hear anywhere near as much from him as we did, say, 15 years ago. And I'm just kind of curious if they're going to do the disappearing act on Jim Trafficant. And with that, Alex, I want to thank you very much for taking my call.
Absolutely. Well, I want to be clear. Pat Buchanan worked for Nixon. I've seen him do some baiting and switching, becoming pro-war briefly in 2003 when he knew it was political suicide to be against it. Then he came out against it later. But Pat Buchanan is a lot better than Glenn Beck. I mean, Pat Buchanan actually believes a lot of what he's saying and then plays politics a little. With Glenn Beck, it's all done on purpose to be manipulative and deceptive, and it's right out of the government playbook, and he's dangerous. He's dangerous. So I'm going to talk about that when we get back on a host of issues. But I'm going to try to reach out to him straight ahead after this break. And I've been getting emails saying, why haven't you had James Traficant on? We've been calling James Traficant for 2 weeks since he got out of prison. Paul Hartman and Jaron have talked to his wife over and over again, and she keeps very nicely saying, I'm giving Jim your message. So we're trying to get Traficant on. We were against him going to prison.
We're on the